We're going to look a little bit more into debt. One ratio which we've already seen for debt is called a debt ratio, as liabilities divided by assets. And there are different ways of measuring. Another thing I've seen for debt ratio is just long-term liabilities divided by assets, but that's not what we're going to use here. Current ratio is current assets divided by current liabilities, and it measures your ability to pay your debts now. So the current ratio is a very short-term measure. It's called liquidity ratio, whereas your debt ratio is more long-term. It's called solvency. So it's important to understand the difference between them. Current ratio measures current assets divided by current liabilities. Do you have enough current assets to pay off your current liabilities? The debt ratio says total liabilities as a percent of total assets. Now, we have 3 restaurant chains here, and I'll tell you, I keep kosher, so I don't know what any of these things taste like. So we always have this conversation, and students are like, they eat lobster, and I don't understand why you would eat something so disgusting looking. But we have 3 kinds here. We have DineEquity, Darden, and Nathan's. Let's talk about each one very quickly. DineEquity owns IHOP and Applebee's. And Applebee's they bought, I think, like 4 or 5 years ago. And I assume everybody knows what these restaurants are like. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Darden Restaurants is Red Lobster, Olive Garden, Bahama Breeze. I don't think I've ever seen one of those.
I work there.
You work Bahama Breeze?
Yeah.
Okay, so you work for Darden Restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And Smoky Bones Barbecue and Grill. What's Bahama Breeze like? They have them in New Jersey?
Yeah, there's one in France. It's actually Caribbean style. And
Oh, it's Caribbean style food?
Yeah, it's like Jamaican wings and stuff like that. And Darden just sold off Red Lobster as well.
Darden sold off Red Lobster?
Or split it into a separate company, yeah.
Okay, Nathan's famous, I think everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at this information. So we have 3 different restaurant chains, and we have the industry average for restaurants for current ratio is 1.1. So to calculate this for you, it's already given to you. DineEquity is 1.32, Darden is 0.54, and Nathan's is 6.12. Debt ratio, you can see DineEquity has a wicked amount of debt, 97%. Darden is lower, 64%, and Nathan's famous is 17%. Another ratio that's sometimes used is a debt to equity ratio. This is total liabilities divided by total equity. Again, for industry average is 1.1. You can see here DineEquity is off the map. Darden is kind of high, and Nathan's is very low. Let's try to understand what this means. Which of the following have sufficient current assets to pay off current liabilities? Let's look at it differently. Look at the second half of the sentence there. If your current ratio, if your current assets exceed current liabilities, then what will your ratio be? It'd be greater than 1, because it's current assets divided by current liabilities. So if the numerator is higher than the denominator, then it's going to be greater than 1. If current assets is less than your current liabilities, then it would be less than 1. So therefore, if they have sufficient assets to pay off current liabilities and they have a current ratio that's greater than 1. But which ones have a current ratio greater than 1? DineEquity and what else? Nathan's.
For the debt to equity ratio, what is the equation?
What?
For the debt to equity ratio, what's the equation?
Is total liabilities divided by total equity. It's here down in the footnote. So a current ratio, where would the current ratio be if you don't have enough short-term liquidity? Then the current ratio is lower than the industry average. Which one? The industry average here is 1.1. Which company is lower than the industry average? Unfortunately, Darden. Does this indicate the company is insolvent or unable to pay its bills? Anyone say yes? No. But it might have a problem. You would want to understand what's going on. Because you would want to understand why their current ratio is so low. And you have companies, Walmart's current ratio is like 0.4 or something. But it's a healthy company. Which companies are relying more on debt rather than equity to finance their assets? Dine for sure. And Darden also, because they both have debt-equity ratios or debt-to-asset ratios greater than 0.5. Darden is financing what percentage of its assets with debt? 64%. For a company wanting to be lower risk and less dependent on debt, should they want an increasing trend in the debt ratio or a decreasing trend? Yeah, you want the debt ratio to go down. If you want to be less dependent on debt, then you want to decrease your debt ratio. A company that has higher financial risk will in general be required to pay higher interest rates. So the more debt you have, the higher your risk of not paying, and then the higher interest rates that the bank is going to want to charge you. So why does a company with a higher debt ratio tend to have a greater financial risk?
So it owes more money.
And it will probably be more difficult for the company to pay back all its interest and debt on time. How's that? Does a high debt ratio indicate a weak corporation? No, but I would say it might. If the company uses debt advantageously, then it's in good shape. But if not, it's in trouble. So think again about General Mills. General Mills had a lot of debt, but it's General Mills. So how bad could the problem be, you know?